So we're just going to start by reviewing the formulas real fast. Again, the more times you write these down, the better off you're going to be at remembering them. So if I'm talking about cylinders first, what's the lateral area of a cylinder? 2 pi RH, as though it would have been the perimeter, right, times the height, just like a prism. And then total area, how many bases are there? 2, and the base area, it's a circle, which would be, so this is 2 times pi r squared plus 2 pi RH, or if we've already found it, 2 pi r squared plus the lateral area. And then the cone, which is basically like a pyramid with a circle as its base, thank you. And it would have been 1/2 perimeter times the slant height. Perimeter being 2 pi r means that the 1/2 and the 2 cancel, so I just get pi r L, which is your slant height for the lateral area. And then this time there's only one base, and that base is a circle, so pi r squared plus pi r L, or pi r squared plus the lateral area if you've already found it. So we are going to keep adding to that formula list as we move into volumes. You want to make sure that you're keeping, reviewing them as you're going, not trying to slam them all in together. We're going to be way too much. So cylinder, in this table, it's going to ask you to complete. It's giving you the radius and the height, and it's just asking you to complete the lateral area and the total area. Remember, the cylinder, like a soup can, right, would have 2 circles, one at the top and one at the bottom. This segment would be the radius of the circle, and then the h would be the height. So for number 1, the lateral area is 2 pi times the radius times the height. And that's all multiplication, which means it can be done in any order. I can do 2 times 5, which is 10, 10 times 10, which is 100. And then the pi is still there. I could have done 5 times 10, which is 50. 2 times 50 is 100. Okay? All of that can be rearranged when you're dealing with multiplication. And it didn't give me a unit, so this would be just the word units squared. And then total area, there's 2 of the bases, so 2 pi, the radius is 5 squared, plus we already have the lateral area, so you might as well use it, 100 pi. This is 2 times pi times 25 plus 100 pi. This is 50 pi plus 100 pi, and since they both have pi, I can combine them. So I get 150 pi units squared. Questions in cylinder? Raise your hand if I've got it right. Okay, good. All right, so then I go to 2, and 2 gives you, the radius is now √7, and the height is 3. So 2 pi √7 times the height would be 2 times 3, which is 6 pi √7. And that can be written in any order. You can put 6 √7 pi. Just make sure that the pi doesn't go underneath the root. And then total area, 2 pi r squared plus 6 pi √7. √7 squared is what? Just 7. So this becomes 14 pi plus 6 pi √7. And those can't be combined. One's got a root and one doesn't. So they stay separate. 14 pi plus 6 pi √7. And again, that could be 6 √7 pi, as long as the pi is not underneath the root. Because one's got a √7 and one doesn't. So the pi's would be fine. It's the problem is that one's got a root and one doesn't. Questions on 2? Okay, so now we get to cones, which is not that much harder, except that they do add in the fact that there could be a slant height. So with a cone that has a circle at the base, this is my radius, this is my regular height, this would be my slant height. So the radius, the height, and the slant height make a little right triangle in which the slant height is the hypotenuse. So if my radius and my height are 5 and 12, what's my slant height? 13, that's a triple, okay? Again, triples always save you time. And then lateral area for a cone, we just said, was pi RL. So pi times 5 times the slant height, which is 13, is 65 pi. And then total area is pi r squared plus pi rl, or pi r squared, r being 5, plus the slant, or the lateral area, which is 65 pi. So I get 25 pi plus 65 pi, which is 90 pi. Questions on that one? Raise your hand if you got that one right. Okay, good. All right, and then 4 is giving you the radius and the slant height. So if I were to draw the little right triangle, I would have the radius, which is here, is 8. The slant height is 17. This height is what's missing. That's a triple 2. I don't know if you remember it, but 5 what? 17. I mean, sorry, 8, 15, 17. Yeah, your height is 15. If you didn't find it, then you had to actually multiply it out. Do 289 minus 64, and you would have gotten 225. Square root of 225 is 15. The more triples you know, the easier it will be. All right, so lateral area, pi times the radius times the slant height, 136 pi. And total area, pi, the radius squared, plus 136 pi, 64 pi, plus 136 pi, 200 pi. Raise your hand if you got all 4 right. Cylinders and cones, so much better than prisms and pyramids, right? Okay. So if you go to Canvas, there's an assignment, or you can go straight to the files, doesn't matter how you get there, but there's an assignment, solids, surface area of solids review, and it's got this file on it. So the first page is kind of like your formula cheat sheet. I want you to keep adding to this. Notice that there's obviously more on this than what we've done, but by the end of the chapter, you'll be able to fill this in. And you want to erase it and duplicate it as many times as you need to, so that these are something that you can state right off the top of your head quickly, so that you don't waste time on a test trying to figure out formulas. Okay. So let's start with the prisms. Okay, lateral area of the prism. If you started with prisms, if you want to give yourself a little picture of a prism so you can remind yourself what it looks like, this would be a rectangular prism. Okay, not a good one, but you can get yourself an idea. It could be a triangular prism, a right triangular prism, a hexagonal prism, okay? But prism just means that there's 2 bases, and those bases are not circles. Those bases are going to be polygons, so they could be a triangle, it could be a quadrilateral, it could be a hexagon, it could be an octagon, any of those, okay? But there's 2 of those, and then the lateral faces are, if it's a right prism, then the lateral faces are rectangles. So if I want to find the lateral area, what's the formula for lateral area of a prism? Perimeter times height, and that is the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. Total area, and you've got 2 options. What's the first one? How many bases are there? 2, so that's 2 times the base area plus the perimeter times the height, or we just said that perimeter times the height is lateral area. So you could use either one. If you've already found the lateral area, then I would suggest the second. If you're starting from scratch, then you can go straight to the first one. And then we'll fill in volumes eventually, but we're not going to do that today. We'll do that tomorrow. Then you get to pyramids. So a pyramid has a single base. This would be a square pyramid. Single base, and its lateral faces are triangles that all meet at a single point, which is that vertex point at the top. Okay, you could also have a triangular prism. And the prisms that we find surface area of are regular prisms, which means if it's a regular quadrilateral, that base is going to be a square. If it was a regular equilateral, if it's a regular triangle, that's going to be an equilateral triangle on the bottom. Lateral area is 1/2 perimeter of the base times the slant height of the pyramid. Pyramid. So if it's a perimeter is a square, I'm going to do the side times 4. If the perimeter is, if the base is an equilateral triangle, I'm doing the side length times 3. Total area this time, there's only one base, so it's B plus 1/2 perimeter times slant height, or B plus the lateral area. Okay, then we got to cylinders yesterday. So cylinders like that soup can. It has 2 bases, but these bases are now circular. Lateral area is 2 pi RH. Total area is 2 pi r squared, which would be 2 times the base area, plus 2 pi RH, which would be perimeter times height if you relate it to a prism, or 2 pi r squared plus the lateral area. And then the cone, which is a pyramid with a circle as its base. Lateral area is pi RL. Total area is 1 base, so pi r squared plus pi RL, or pi r squared plus the lateral area. Okay, so now we've got some examples. We're not going to do all of these, but we will pick through some of them. And my advice is, this says surface area, but you can use the total area to get there. The lateral area to get there, so it's a good habit to start practicing both. So we'll do the first one together, okay? Surface area is the same thing as total area. So in the world of geometry, depending on the book you're using, some people use total area and some people use surface area. But they are the exact same thing. Total area is the area of all the sides. Surface is like if I'm going to cover a box with wrapping paper, I've got to cover all those surfaces, which is the same as total area, okay? So just realize that those are the same thing, but obviously not the same as lateral area. All right, so if I look at one, what shape is this? It's a rectangular prism, okay? So as a habit, to make it easier on all of us, we're going to use the top and the bottom as the base. But technically, with a rectangular prism, and I'm finding surface area, I could use the front, the back, the top, the bottom, the left, the right. As its bases, I'd still get the same answer. So if I want to figure out the base, this would be 6 and 2, this would be 6 and 2. So the 6 would go there, the 2 would go there. If it's a rectangle, then the 2 is also on this side and the 6 is also on that side. So you kind of got to picture your base. So let's start with lateral area, which we just said was the perimeter times the height. Perimeter being the perimeter of the base. So how do I find perimeter of a shape? Add up all the sides. So if the base is the bottom, 6 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2, or 8 plus 8, which is 16. The height is the height of the prism. So this is going to be the side length that's connecting the 2 bases. In this case, it's 12. And then all I got to do is multiply 16 times 12. That's the lateral area. With me so far? Yeah? Okay, so then I want to move on to surface area. So this is 2b plus the lateral area, because we already found it. I could have gone straight to pH. B is the base area. What kind of shape is the base? A rectangle. How do I find the area of a rectangle? Length times width, or base times height, whatever. So 6 times 2, which is 12. So 2 times 12 plus 192, 24 plus 192, 216. And this time they gave you a unit, so these are both feet squared. Questions on that one? No, I'm going to make you do number 3, and then we'll go back to 2. So you do 3 now, and then we'll go back to 2. if you only had to do what you liked, I'd probably have a lot less problems to pick from, right? So what kind of shape is it? Triangular prism. Okay, what kind of triangle? So isosceles. There's a 5, a 5, and a 6. Everybody see that, right? So it's not equilateral, which means we can't use 1/2 A and S, right? Because that's a regular polygon, okay? Which means that when I go to find the base area of this, I have to do 1/2 base times height, B being a lowercase b, which represents the base of the right of this triangle, okay? And then the H, which is this is where it gets confusing, on that is the H of the triangle.
Can you stop saying like the letters?
No.
Say the whole word.
So the formula, when you say the formula in your head, you say 1/2 base times height. How do you distinguish that height between the height of the prism? When you talk about it, it's the same word. Does that make sense? Yeah. But when you go to actually figure out the base area, you have to know, I'm trying to find the area of just that triangle. So it has nothing to do with the height of the prism yet. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to break it down the same way we did. So I'm going to find lateral area, which is perimeter times height. And this is where it gets a little confusing because that height is the height of what? Nope. The prism. So when I say perimeter times height, I mean the height of the prism.
So the height would be 11?
So the height there is 11, yes. Okay, but the perimeter is the perimeter of the base, which in this case is a triangle. What's the perimeter if it's 5, 5, and 6? 16, and H, height of the prism, which is the side connecting the two bases, which is 11. Do you know the trick of the times tables with 11?
It's 176.
Do you know how to do that quickly? How?
You just put the numbers, I don't know how to describe it.
First number is the first number, last number is the last number, and number in between is the sum of the two. So whatever I'm multiplying by 11, it's a life skill, right? So if I was doing 23, first number is the first number, last number is the last number, middle number is the sum of the two. Mind blowing. Yeah. When you multiply a number by 11, so if we did 16 times 11, first number is the first number, last number is the last number, the middle number is the sum of the two. So it doesn't work for everything because if it becomes bigger than 9, then obviously it messes with it, but yeah. 9 is your fingers, right? If you could use your fingers. All right, so that's lateral area, okay? Perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. Now I need total area, which is 2 times the base area plus what we just found, lateral area. So let's talk about B when I've got an isosceles triangle to find. Capital B represents the area of the base, and this is what's going to change with the prism because I have to identify what is the base. We've already said this base is an isosceles triangle. Okay, and this one kind of easily gives us all the information that we need. But you could have found 4. Like imagine if 4 was not there. If 4 was not given to you. What do I know about what happens with the altitude of an isosceles triangle? Good. It would cut that 6 into 3 and 3, and then I could use my Pythagorean triple to find the height of this triangle. So this B is 1/2 lowercase b times height of this triangle. So 1/2 the base of the triangle, which is 6, times the height of the triangle, which we just said was 4. So I can do 1/2 of 6 is 3, and 3 times 4 is 12. So the area of one of those triangles is 12. So this is 2 times 12 plus the lateral area, which is 176. And this time, it's in centimeters. Lourdes. Yeah. Just, you might get some that ask you, like when you do those breakdown of the tables, you might get a question that asks for B. Just realize that you would have to do that.
Can you do a pyramid with us really quick?
Yeah, I will, but what's, we're going to talk about one more first. Because what's the difference between 4 and 2? This is a right triangle as its base. So I already have the height and the base of the triangle, right? Does that make sense? Okay, in a case like this, you might be missing the hypotenuse. So you'd have to find the hypotenuse to find perimeter, but this time they gave you all three. Does that make sense? The perimeter part or the base and the height?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Alexis?
So in this case, like you said, when you're talking about these, you always want to use you only use the top one, like on that one, the rest of
So if it's not a rectangular prism, then the base is the shape that's not a rectangle. Like if you look at 4, I have 3 rectangles going around and I have 2 triangles. Those 2 triangles, something I have a pair of, right? So the 2 triangles are going to be your bases.
But the rest of the sides don't equal each other.
They don't have to.
So what do you do?
The same exact thing we already did. So you would still find the perimeter of the base. This time the base is a right triangle, so 9 plus 12 plus 15. The height of the prism is 6.
Oh.
And then total area would be the area, 2 times the area of the base, which would be 1/2 9 times 12, plus the lateral area. So it's exact same. The only difference there is how you find the B. All right, so I want you to circle 4, I want you to circle 5, I want you to circle 6, and I want you to circle 9. 4, 5, 6, and 9. And then we're going to move on to pyramids. So I'm going to do, I think I'll do at least one square pyramid with you, and then I threw on there the triangle pyramid. Okay, so with a pyramid, if you're looking at one, the formula for the pyramid, so if I want to find lateral area first, is 1/2 perimeter times the slant height. Perimeter is the perimeter of the base. So this is a square pyramid. What is the shape of my base? It's a square. How do I find the perimeter of a square? 8 times 4, 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, which would be 32. And then this time they give you the slant height, it running right along the side there, which would be 16. You with me so far? Yeah. And then I can do 1/2 of 32, which would be 16, and 16 times 16, which is, anybody do the math yet? Good. So let's talk about all the other stuff they could give you in a square, because obviously these are ones that are not as easy. Let's say instead of giving you the slant height, it gave you the height. How could I find the slant height? So I can make a Pythagorean, I can use the Pythagorean theorem with 1/2 the side length, right? This would have been 4. And then whatever was given to you as the height to find the hypotenuse of that little triangle, which would be your slant
I
height.
thought you would know the height.
So if they gave you the height instead of the slant height.
Oh.
Because we don't need the height yet, but when we get to volume, you do.
Oh,
So at some point, you are going to need to find the side length, which will give you the perimeter, okay? The slant height and the height of a square pyramid. So that little triangle is made from 1/2 the side and the height and the slant height. A variation of it could be like you're given the lateral edge and the radius, so there's a lot of different triangles that can be formed in there, okay? So we'll kind of baby step our way back to those. But for right now, just picture the fact that, I mean, they give you the slant height on these. We're kind of going easy. Just make sure you'd also be able to find the height, because when we get to volumes, you need it. So on this one, just highlight 2 and 3. All right, and then this last one. So now what is that shape? It's a pentagonal pyramid. So my base is a pentagon, yes? How do you find the area of a pentagon? 1/2 A and S. So the good thing is in this case, like, so the capital B is 1/2 A and S, okay? Do you know the apothem?
Yeah.
Yes, it's 5. Do you know the length of each side?
Yeah,
Yes, it's 10. Do you know the number of sides? Yes. So you're not using trig here, okay? You don't. If you didn't know that stuff, you'd need to know trig, but we're not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to you just yet, okay? The 10. Oh, the 10. I'm sorry. The 10 is the slant height. The 8 is the side length, okay? So this would be 1/2 5 times 5 because there are n number of sides, and the length of each side, which is 8. You with me so far? So this would be 425 times 4, which is 100. So the base area is 100. How do you find what else do I need to know? I need to know the perimeter of the base. Do you know how to find the perimeter? 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, or 8 times 5. And then I need to know the slant height. Do I have the slant height? Yeah, so you've got all the information you already need to know. What would happen if I had to find the height of this shape? Pythagorean theorem using the apothem and the slant height. Does that make sense? Okay. So the same is going to be true for 9, right? It's also giving you the apothem, the side length, and the slant height. And then 8 is your equilateral triangle. So when I go to find the area here, it's the area of an equilateral triangle. So if I was looking at the base, they're giving you this is 9, and they're giving you this is 7.8. Can you find the area of that, right? Of that triangle? Yeah, 1/2 base times height, right? Okay, so don't let it confuse you, okay? You got to get good at reading diagrams because it's going to happen, or drawing diagrams from written word, okay? But you can't be afraid of these things. So highlight, finish out 7, 8, and 9, and then 10's just like the other ones. Highlight 7, 8, and 9. So you're doing the highlighted ones, yep. Yeah, you're going to turn this in.